like I said, we're gonna talk about beekeeping equipment, go inside the hive, and then at the end we'll do a question and answer. So you want to ask yourself, why do I want to be a beekeeper? And are you after, well, the honey? Are you looking for an interesting hobby? Or maybe perhaps you're just curious about bees. Maybe you want to save the bees. I mean, we hear a lot about saving bees. So that's another reason, or you might have your own reasons why you're interested in beekeeping. And you don't have to be a beekeeper to help the bees. That's the one thing I want to tell you, that you can do a lot of things. You can plant bee forage. You can ask certain parks or areas to let that go natural with natural vegetation, and so that the bees will have the forage in a place that no one really needs to walk or go through, but under power lines is a perfect example, so that the bees do have that nutrition and foraging. So my husband and I have been beekeeping for going on 7 years now. We are in North St. Johns County, and all our hives are kept here on our property year-round. Again, we have over 20 hives right now, and we're deep into honey production. Honey is harvested. We usually have it ready. We do sell our honey, so we have it ready in July, late July, for those that are interested in purchasing it. We also go out and we catch swarms. That's another thing that we do together. It's very exciting too. Mrs. Weaver will probably have some videos at the end that she can share with you. And just this week, I started a Facebook page just for you guys that I posted several swarms and also information about bees a little bit that you can go and just check out. So it's at Roark's Honey, ROARKS Honey. So that's where you can go to find out and see some more videos about bees and swarming and things that we do. So beekeeping is all about the right things, the right way, at the right time. And think about gardening. You want to plant tomatoes. So you say, the right things. Do you let the weeds grow up in your garden so that the weeds will take away the nutrients from the tomatoes? The tomatoes will not do well. The right way. Do you water the plants too much, or do you not water at all? You're not going to be successful either way. And the right time. You don't plant tomatoes in July because you only get no tomatoes from those plants. So that's what beekeeping is about. If you're interested in beekeeping, you need to read, and learn before you start. There are beekeeping experts at the University of Florida that admit that they do not know everything there is to know about beekeeping. I don't know that we'll ever know. The more you learn, the more you realize how much there is to learn. So some of the ways you can do that is get books from the library. You can also, perhaps the library has access to journals, like the American Bee Journal. That's a really good one. We get that. And we also get bee culture. And on this one, I thought this was interesting. This is from February. It says, bees can do math. What? Yes, they actually can. They can add and subtract. So you look that up. Bees can do math after this is over, and you'll be amazed at what the bees can learn. Let's talk a little bit about the equipment. As you become a beekeeper, you will learn so much.
You want me to lift that up? Or?
Oh, no. We're good. You will learn so much about entomology, which is the study of insects, botany, which is the study of plants, as well as science. I mean, it's heavily science-based. Bees don't really care where they live. They can live in any size enclosed area. We keep them in what we call bee boxes. This is actually just the lid. It's a flat piece of plywood. And then as you look here, the entrance is right here into this box. It's made up of, we call this a deep, we call this a super. The super is on top, but any boxes that are small like this on top is where we keep the honey, the bees. Inside the super are actual frames, and this is filled out with 10 frames typically. These are short frames, and one of them has just, we call this foundation. It's just a wax coated foundation that they can start building comb. And this is actually a frame that they have built comb on and will store honey in there. So the bees will build the wax inside the super. They also build wax comb and raise their young.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is considered to be a deep brood box. And this is what it looks like inside. Of course, there's 10 frames again. And these frames are not built out with wax. This is what you put in when you first start beekeeping. These are wax coated frames that the bees will use to draw out the comb, to make comb. So this whole setup, the deep and the super and the lid, very important to get started. Okay, there's a couple other things you're going to need. When you go into the box, into the hive, typically you take the lid off. And if someone comes to your house and removes the roof from your house, you're going to say, this is not good. I better tell my parents, or I better communicate to the rest of the family. Bees do the same thing. However, having a smoker like this, and all a smoker is a fuel chamber and a bellows. And you'll see as we go into the hive how I will use the smoke to calm the bees, or to kind of hide their pheromones. Bees communicate in here by smell. And if you take off the roof or the top of the hive, they will put on an alarm pheromone, which means that communicates to the rest of the hive, hey, something bad is happening here. Let's rally together and see what it is, and let's go and really, get rid of the intruder. So what we typically do is give the front of the hive, where the guard bees are, a little bit of smoke. This is a very dangerous place to be. If you ever walk around a beehive, you never want to go into the front, because that's where the bees guard their entrance. That's the only way they can get in. That's their front door. And then we put a little smoke inside the roof, and we leave it for a couple of seconds or so until it masks the smell of the alarm. Okay, then we'll take the top off, and we're going to go into the hive. And this is a full-size hive. You'll see some hives in the background, that have many more of these boxes on top. Those are full of honey. This down here, I can't really see, but I'll lift it up a little bit. This is considered to be a nuke. They can kind of see it. The nuke is a smaller version of the large hive, and we use nukes to raise queens, because every hive has to have a queen. Something else that you'll need is, of course, some kind of a jacket and some kind of a hood or a veil. Very important that the most important part of this is the veil. You do not want bees to come at you on your face. Okay, that's the worst place to get stung. You also may want to have some gloves, because fingers are, to me, fingers are the second worst place to get stung. So those help protect your fingers. The other two things that you absolutely have to start beekeeping is a bee brush. And these names are, there's no fancy name for it. It's called bee brush. If you need to brush bees off the side or back into the hive. And this is probably the most important thing of all. This is called a hive tool. Original name, we all call it a hive tool because it's a tool that separates the frames and can pry open things. And here's another example of a veil. These, what you're going to see, we're going to go back to the hive to open it up, and while I'm getting dressed, I'll talk about it just a second. Bees need, well, they have worker bees. They have male bees that go out and mate with the queen, and they have the queen, one queen in each hive typically. The bees will, the queen will lay eggs. The egg will hatch into a larva, which is sort of like a, I'm not really a scientist, but it's sort of like a worm-shaped creature. It's white, or a caterpillar type looking creature. It's white. And then when the time is right, about 8-9 days after the egg is laid, the bees will cap the top of the cell, and you'll see where the larva has been capped. And that is a pupa, which means that that bee is he's metamorphosizing into a honeybee. When after 21 days, that honeybee will chew through its capping and become a worker bee, or another type bee in the hive. A worker is a female, and a male is called a drone. So, as you can see, everything is very secure on a bee suit. Elastic. I put my gloves on, which again are, you know, protect your hands. And the only thing that I'm going to take over here is my smoker and my hive tool, because I don't need the, I could take my bee brush, but I probably won't use it because it's a very small hive. So making sure that my smoker is lit. And I am going to add a bit more fuel to the smoker. Just pine needles to do the fuel for my smoker.
What about, is that good? Can you see?
Sure, yeah.
I can see.
Yes, we can see.
Smoke
Thank you.
coming out. You don't want to cook the bees. You want to confuse them a bit about the smells. You want to smoke that till it's, I mean, I can hold my hand here, even with the glove, and it's not a hot smoke. It's a very cool smoke. Too much smoke can aggravate bees, so we don't want to do that. Okay, I'm going to lift the lid and give them a little smoke inside, just to let them know, not to let them know I'm coming, but just to make sure that they're not communicating with each other as much as they want to. So this is a super because the bees are very, very, very large. It's a very large, we call it a nuke. I'm sorry if it sounds like nuclear, but it's like the nucleus of a colony. It's the part of the colony that is the heart of it, which means that it has all the factors that a big colony has, but not as many bees. Okay, and so I want to give them a little more smoke near the top. And you can see that they are flying around, and this is normal. One of the most important things you need to remember with beekeeping is that you move very slowly. You may see other beekeepers that throw the frames around, and they're just very careless with the bees. I try to be very careful and not harm any of the bees, not squish them or harm them in any way. Let me see if you probably want to turn it down a little bit, or I could do it if you want. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, now I'm going to show you some frames. This is just an outer frame. That's the comb they built on the frame. And I'm going to show you some frames of, that's also very heavy, full of honey. I'm going to show you some frames that have the actual brood on them. In this one, I'm raising a queen, okay? And you can kind of wonder, you know, how does she know she's raising a queen? I can show you that in just a minute. Okay? Down below here, you'll see a peanut-shaped cell. I don't know. Yeah, you can see it. It's kind of hanging at the very bottom of this frame. It's right here. That is actually a queen cell. And that queen cell will hatch into a new queen. What happens is when you give the bees, these bees had no queen. I gave them some eggs, or the old queen might have laid some eggs, but I actually gave them eggs, and they produced a queen cell. Now here's more queen cells that they are making. Okay, there's some queen cells here, and there's some in the center. What you see here is a suede type of wax here is all worker bees. Sometimes you'll see at the very bottom, they look like little biscuits. This is a drone brood at the edge, usually, typically, when it's bubbled out a little more, because drone bees are larger than worker bees. So this is definitely going to produce one or more queens. I'm probably going to go back in and take out some of those cells. I won't do it today, but I'll take out some of those cells because we don't want but one or two queen cells in there. We don't want, what happens is that the queen will hatch and she will emerge, and she has to go around and kill all the other queens that haven't come out of their cells. This is a really interesting frame. This is loaded with honey, and this is called capped honey. The capped honey has this white wax that's on top, and you can dig in there. I'll do that in a second, and you'll see the honey coming out of that wax. I don't want to do too much to them because I don't like to. It'll set back the bees a little bit. Down below is honey that is not capped. And down below that, I believe, is, yeah, that's more capped honey at the bottom. So let's see where I can see that you are. If I put my hive tool in there, you can kind of see where that honey will run out. And I don't want to damage their comb because the bees have to eat 8 pounds of honey in their hive. They have to eat that much honey to make 1 pound of wax. So the wax that you have in a hive, you do not want to destroy it. Some of you see honeycomb with honey in a jar. You'll see the honeycomb in there. I never take the wax out of my hives until it's been used a few times, because it's such a cost for the bees to make that wax that they need to do that. They need to eat so much honey and produce so much wax. They only produce wax when they're 8 to 12 days old, and only for a short time. This is actually a beetle trap. It's filled with some vegetable oil at the bottom. The bees will chase the beetles into these little holes on top. And this is something we use that is non-chemical and doesn't hurt the bees one bit. There are some bee pests that's a whole nother story, probably beyond what we have time for today. But there always are challenges in beekeeping. So now I'm going to put this back on. As you notice, I did not take the top off of this. The less you disturb the bees, the better. And I don't want to squish any bees, so I kind of slide this over like this. You just want to try to do your best to be very careful with the bees. My husband and I were both very passionate about bees and beekeeping, and we want to keep them safe and healthy. My thoughts are healthy bees, healthy honey, healthy garden soil, healthy vegetables, things like that. It all kind of equals out. So that's it.